I always think about the Tibetan-Chinese situation from a karmic perspective.
Yes.
And I wonder, from your understanding of Buddhism, how do you think karma plays into this equation,
right.
China, Tibet, violence, and so forth?
Well, that's a good question. Karma means just cause and effect, you realize. Karma is not some sort of abstract fate. And the Dalai Lama, the way karma is used by Buddhists is that when something bad happens to you, you reflect that it was your fault of something you did in a previous life. And so, but that's kind of an individual matter, because people who are Chinese in this life might have been Tibetans in previous lives, and people who are Tibetans in this life might have been Chinese in previous lives. So you can't necessarily equate that with nations. But when it happens to you, to blame the victim, actually, if something bad happens to you and you blame yourself, you're the victim, but you blame yourself, this empowers you. It's very paradoxical, and it takes a bit of thinking. When something bad happens to somebody else, you never blame them. You never say, oh, that's their karma. And Buddhists don't. That's a mistake. You could. It's like saying it's God's will or something. It's a silly thing to do. But Bodhisattva, especially Buddhists who have a little bit the Bodhisattva attitude, do not do that. Because you don't want, if something bad happens to somebody else, you want it rather to happen to you. You don't want it to happen to them. So you never use karma as a way to rationalize bad things happening to other people. But you do use karma, the idea of cause and effect, to rationalize it happening to you. And why does it empower you to blame yourself? It's a very strange idea. Because you can do something about yourself. That's why. If you shake your fist at God, or you blame the government, or you blame some other people, what are you going to do with them? Do you know what I mean? You can't, if you harm them, then you're getting more negative karma yourself. You can't change them. They've harmed you. You can't sit and be angry with them, because if they hurt you once, then you get angry, they're hurting yourself twice. So whereas if you blame yourself and say, something about me, I attracted this misfortune, so I'm going to use this misfortune to make sure that whatever it is about me that attracts misfortune, I cleanse it, I transform it, I don't gain it anymore. And it gives you real power to take yourself in hand and use even adversity as a circumstance or a cause for development and evolution. It's a brilliant thing, actually. It's like, I take it upon myself. Okay, you want to beat me? I must have done something myself. I'm going to become immune to being beaten. Do you know what I mean? It's a really weird one. It's a weird idea. And people don't understand it. And they say, oh, it's karma, it's their karma. And they think that you use karma to dismiss other people's suffering, which a Buddhist never does at all. They don't. They say that we don't want them to have that suffering. Maybe it's their karma, but we want to take it away from them, that karma. We want to become a Buddha to free them from that. So they don't rationalize it like that. So these kind of things that people say, oh, it's great for the world, the Chinese invaded Tibet, and then Dalai Lama came out here, and we got to hear the Dharma, and all the Buddhist lamas came, and it's really wonderful. I'm sorry. If the Chinese hadn't invaded Tibet, or the world had said no to them when they started to invade Tibet, like we did in Korea, then the Tibetans could have modernized without being genocided. They could have gotten an airplane and a visa. Dalai Lama would come to visit here on a Tibetan passport. It would, and then he could go back to Tibet, and he could visit China on the. It would be fine. We don't need to justify these things in that way. It would have been better not to have such a thing happen. But the Dalai Lama's people, they think, okay, we had a bad karma. I personally, when I suffered this, not the Tibetan people as a whole, but I personally must have done such and such. So now I'm paying the price, and I'm going to use this to develop. And the Dalai Lama will tell you that he's actually grateful to Mao and grateful to the Chinese for himself personally, because by being broken out of a system that had isolated him too much from his people and from reality, where he was kind of a prisoner in a golden cage, he was able to really take Buddhism to heart in a new way, and he was able to really understand many things that he might have not understood so deeply in his life. He says, he's supposed to be reincarnation and therefore understand it all ab origine, but he says that anyway. So personally, but that doesn't mean he thanks them for harming the other Tibetans, or he doesn't want to resist or oppose that. So, Tibet, this is the great thing about Buddhism. It's not simplistic, it's nuanced. And even enlightenment, I define enlightenment as a high degree of tolerance of cognitive dissonance. The ability to embrace paradox and ambiguity and not like just collapse into, oh, this is so, and that dogma, and that mindless, or there is no mind, or everything is like mysterious and we can't understand it. That's all nonsense, and that is not Buddhism. Buddhism is understanding things to such a degree of refinement and so carefully and so precisely that you can see the ambiguity in things. And you can bear that ambiguity, and you can even enjoy it, actually. And that's what it is. Don't you think?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
yeah.
What?
No, karma is not powerlessness, it's power, basically.